The moment it happened, I knew the night had already changed me forever. Music was still playing, laughter still echoed through the house, sunlight from the late afternoon spilling through the tall windows as the party slowly leaned toward evening. But my heart was pounding as if the world had narrowed down to one quiet corner. My friend's older sister had stepped in front of me, blocking my way with a calm intensity that made everything else fade. Her eyes held something raw and unguarded, and when she leaned closer, her voice steady but heavy with meaning, she told me I was the reason she had come tonight. Not the party, not the crowd, me. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet moments that can change a life, take a second right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch, where stories like this remind us that compassion still matters. The party was supposed to be simple, just a daytime get-together at my friend Arav's family home, full of familiar faces, food laid out on long tables, and the kind of easy chatter that never asked too much from anyone. I had almost skipped it. Lately, I had learned how to stay invisible, how to exist without taking up space. The past year had carved something hollow inside me, failed plans, quiet disappointments, and the constant feeling that I was falling behind everyone else my age. Arav insisted I come, saying it would be good for me, that I needed people around me again. I agreed, not because I believed him, but because I was tired of being alone. His house was bright and open, sunlight pouring in through glass doors that led to a small garden. The smell of fresh food mixed with laughter, and people moved easily, like life hadn't weighed them down yet. I tried to mirror that ease, but it felt borrowed. I stood near the edge of the room, nodding, smiling when needed, careful not to draw attention. That was when I noticed her. Her name was Samira, Arav's older sister. I had met her only a handful of times before, always briefly. She was older by a few years, confident in a quiet, steady way, the kind of person who didn't need to dominate a room to be noticed. That afternoon, she wore simple clothes, her hair pulled back loosely, sunlight catching the edges of her face as she helped arrange things and greet guests. I didn't expect her to notice me at all. People like her rarely did. But throughout the afternoon, I felt something strange, like being seen without looking directly. Every now and then, when I glanced up, our eyes met for a second too long. There was no smile, no awkwardness, just recognition. It unsettled me. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was projecting meaning onto nothing because my life felt empty enough to need it. As the party thinned slightly and people drifted into smaller conversations, I stepped away toward a quieter corner near the hallway. I needed air, space, a moment to breathe without pretending. That was when Samira appeared in front of me, her presence firm but gentle, her posture blocking the exit as if this moment had been planned by something larger than both of us. The noise behind her softened, and I realized she had been waiting for the right moment. She didn't accuse me of anything, she didn't smile or flirt. Instead, she looked at me like someone looking at a mirror they weren't ready to face. When she told me I was the reason she had come tonight, not in a dramatic way but in a calm, honest one, my first instinct was disbelief. I almost laughed. Me, who barely felt worthy of showing up anywhere, let alone being the reason someone else did. The words landed heavier as she explained, not with dramatics, but with truth. Months ago, during a difficult time in her life, she had overheard a conversation I didn't even remember fully having. It was a random afternoon when Arav and I sat on the steps outside his house, talking about failures, about feeling stuck, about how easy it was to give up when no one expected anything from you anymore. I had said something then, something I didn't think mattered. I spoke about choosing to stay kind even when life felt unfair, about not wanting bitterness to be the loudest thing I left behind. I had been speaking more to myself than anyone else. Samira had been listening from inside. She hadn't interrupted. She hadn't told me then that it mattered. But those words had stayed with her, at a time when she felt invisible in her own struggles, when she was questioning her worth and direction. Hearing someone younger, broken in his own way, still choosing kindness had unsettled her in the best way. She said it made her pause, made her rethink how she treated herself and others. And today, she came because she wanted to see if the person who said those words was real, or just a moment. Standing there, I felt exposed. I had spent so long believing my quiet efforts didn't count, that my attempts to be decent were meaningless in a world that rewarded noise and success. Yet here was proof that something I thought insignificant had reached someone else in a moment they needed it. The challenge wasn't what she said. The challenge was believing I deserved to be that person. I had built walls around my self-worth, convincing myself that until I had achievements, confidence, or clarity, I had nothing to offer. Samira didn't ask me to be anything more than honest. She simply told me that my presence mattered more than I realized, and that sometimes people survive because someone else chooses to speak gently instead of giving up. After that moment, the party resumed its shape around us, but I wasn't the same inside it. I noticed things differently. The way Arav laughed freely, the way sunlight warmed the room, the way people carried unseen stories behind their smiles. For the first time in a long while, I felt connected, not because I was impressive, but because I was human. Samira didn't stay glued to me. She didn't turn the moment into something dramatic. She simply nodded, as if we had silently agreed on something important, and returned to the rest of the gathering. That restraint made the moment more powerful. It wasn't about romance or attention, it was about recognition. As the afternoon faded, I found myself helping more, engaging more, speaking without rehearsing every word in my head. The heaviness I had carried for months didn't vanish, but it loosened its grip. I realized how much energy I had spent underestimating myself, shrinking to avoid disappointment. Yet life had a way of reminding you, quietly, that you matter even before you believe it. When the party ended and people began leaving, I stood outside for a moment, watching the daylight soften into early evening. Samira walked past me on her way out, offering a small, knowing smile. Nothing more needed to be said. The message had already settled deep inside me. That day didn't fix everything. I didn't suddenly become fearless or successful, but something fundamental shifted. I started speaking with more intention, listening more closely, and allowing myself to exist without apology. I stopped assuming my presence was a burden. I began to understand that kindness isn't loud, and impact isn't always visible right away. Weeks later, I found myself in situations where I could have withdrawn again, chosen silence or bitterness. Instead, I remembered that afternoon, that corner of a sunlit house, and the realization that someone had found strength in my words when I felt weakest. That memory became a quiet anchor. If this story is touching something in you, if you've ever felt unseen, unimportant, or unsure whether your kindness matters, please take a moment near the end of this video to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need them most. And before this story closes, here's a special request. Comment below with one kind thing someone once said to you that you never forgot. Your words might be the reason someone else feels less alone today. Sometimes, the most powerful moments don't happen on stages or under spotlights. They happen in corners, in daylight, in ordinary gatherings, when someone finally tells you that you mattered long before you believed it yourself. And that realization can quietly, beautifully change everything.